Hi, everyone. I am DJ Riley, one of the hosts from Boys on the Bench, and I am back with 5 more picks on these NBA games for today, Tuesday, January 23rd. I will be looking at PrizePicks and Underdog. Most likely you can make these bets across both of them, but I did choose Underdog Fantasy in this line, and a lot of them, again, like I said, do cross-platform, so we are looking for this 20 times multiplier on Underdog with these 5 picks. So again, make sure you're checking the links in the description because I am dropping these picks very early in the morning between 6 and 7 a.m. Central Time. So in that description, you can find a link to our X profile where you are getting early access to these picks, where I am finding them and I am liking them and I am posting them. Now, also in the link in the description, you will find one of the best positive EV betting tools called Daily Grind Fantasy. This Daily Grind Fantasy is constantly feeding winners on a consistent basis. They are always comparing what PrizePicks, Underdogs, or any other daily fantasy sports app that you use and comparing them to what other major sports books are saying. So all you really need is that optimizer tool. And in the link in my description, you can find that there in order to make yourself a better bettor and giving you the highest chances to win. Unfortunately, yesterday was not the case for me. I went against Daily Grind Fantasy and found some picks that, they weren't necessarily recommending, and I netted myself as 2-5 on the day. We saw Vince Williams Jr. and Brook Lopez cashed very easily on their bets. Damian Lillard was the right read for me, but he just could not hit a shot yesterday, shooting 26% from the field and 20% from threes. So definitely not a great day of shooting for him, but I really liked it. He finished with 17 points, needing to have 27 though. Rudy Gobert just seemed to play in a game where neither team really missed a shot. It was a very high-scoring game for two teams that had a very low pace of play. So that caught me by surprise, and he just missed this by 2 rebounds. And then lastly was Miles Bridges. That was just a bad read by me. It was a play that I never should have made. I doubted Miles Bridges when he's been on an absolute tear this whole season. So he's slowly becoming to be put on my do not bet list. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into these 5 picks that I have for today. First on this list is Miles Turner going under 22.5 points plus rebounds versus this Denver Nuggets team. They do have a 1-game history this season playing on January 14th. Miles Turner in that game had 12 points and 4 rebounds, giving him 16, which would have easily cashed the under here. Now, if we look at the positive EV betting side of this on Daily Grind Fantasy, they're giving this a 51.3% chance of hitting. This is decent odds. Obviously, we wanted a little bit higher into that 53, 54, and then anything beyond that is very good. But they're giving, all the books are giving this an average juice of minus 124, with really one book honestly favoring the over. So that's what kind of hurts his percentage chance here. Now, looking at his recent performances and how well he's hit this under on that 22.5 points plus rebounds, he has hit the under in 4 out of his last 5 and 6 out of his last 10. And one thing that I think attributes more so than anything to that, over his last 10 games, we've only seen Miles Turner average 26 minutes of playing time over his last 10, and then 23 minutes over his last 5. So again, that's probably likely why that number is not hitting very high. So I think versus this Denver team where it's potential for a blowout, I know Tyrese Halliburton has the potential of coming back in this game, which could keep them competitive, obviously. But I think that obviously this Denver team is going to continue to do work versus them and maybe has the potential for a blowout. Now, looking at how Denver ranks versus the points plus rebounds, right now, Denver points versus the center, they allow the 9th least. Rebounds versus center is the 12th least, and then points plus rebounds versus center is the 9th least. So nearly top 10 in every category. So not looking very great for Miles Turner. So I think you definitely hammer the under here for him. Now, next on the list is Colin Sexton going over 1.5 3-pointers made versus this New Orleans Pelicans team. They have played each other 3 other times this season, and every single time Colin Sexton has had at least 3 3-pointers made in those games. And in 2 of those games, he shot at least 6 3-point attempts, and then the other one was 8 3-point attempts. So really like that here. I felt like the 1.5 was kind of a disrespect to him. But looking at Daily Grind Fantasy and what they're offering for him, they are only giving us a 50.5% chance of hitting it. This is not great. All the books seem to be having him at about an even split on juice, giving him an average of minus 117 here. Now, looking at his recent performances and how he's been shooting the ball from three, he has hit this line in 4 out of his last 5, 6 out of his last 10. And if we look at the starting point guards versus this New Orleans Pelicans team, they have hit at least 2+ threes in 7 out of their last 8 games. So right now, this Pelicans team allows the eighth most three-pointers made from the point guard position. So yes, Colin Sexton, he's tore up New Orleans Pelicans every game that he's played in them this season. Point guards in recent history have done really good versus this Pelicans team, and Colin Sexton continues to do it in these last 5 to 10 games. So really love the outlook in this game. So definitely hammering the over 1.5 3-pointers made in this game. Now let's go into our third pick for today, and that's Zion Williamson going over 4.5 assists versus the Utah Jazz. Again, they do have a 3-game history. This is the same game as the Colin Sexton, but Zion Williamson has only played them twice, and it was in their 2 most recent matchups. In those 2 most recent matchups, Zion Williamson had 8 assists and 7 assists. So obviously very good. He's found a way to be dominant, not necessarily scoring, but having other people, his teammates, score. So looking at what Daily Grind Fantasy is offering for us here, they are saying that they are giving him a 55.6% chance of hitting, which is very good. This is excellent value for any bet that you're going to take in terms of positive EV. So if we look at all the books here, they are offering him at still 4.5. No one has bumped him up to 5 or 5.5, but they are heavily favoring this with a minus 149 juice. So looking at recent performances and how he's done in his last 5 and last 10, he has hit this line in 3 out of his last 5 and 7 out of his last 10. But like I just mentioned earlier, he has done this. He has hit it in 2 out of his last 2 matchups versus this Jazz team. But all time versus the Jazz, he has hit this line in 4 out of his last 5 matchups with an average of 5.8 assists. Now, Utah Jazz versus the power forward position, they are middle of the pack in terms of assists allowed to them, allowing the 15th most. So nothing that really stands out there, but I think in terms of positive EV and how Zion Williamson has done versus the power forward position is enough to say how much I like this matchup. But let's go on to the fourth pick for today, and that's Jeremy Grant going over 3.5 rebounds versus this Oklahoma City Thunder team. Again, they do have a little bit of a history. They have faced each other twice, and Jeremy Grant has not found a way to get this done. And their most recent matchup, he only had 2 rebounds. Their first matchup of the season, he had 0 rebounds. But where I like this, looking at the positive EV value on this in Daily Grind Fantasy, they're giving this a 54.1% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 139. So all the books are loving the over here for Jeremy Grant, and honestly, I am too. But again, looking at the last 5 and last 10, as always, he has only hit this in 2 out of his last 5 and 2 out of his last 10. So he has not been hitting this line at a high rate at all, but he does enter a matchup versus the Thunder team, who is a very bad rebounding team because they allow the 6th most as a collective team, but to the power forward position, they allow the 3rd most. So again, really like Jeremy Grant. I know he hasn't necessarily found a way to get it done versus them in the past, but books are saying they know a lot more research than I do. They are saying that this has a 54.1% chance of hitting. And I really like that odd in terms of positive EV. But let's go ahead and move on to the last bet of today. And that's D'Angelo Russell going over 2.5 rebounds versus this LA Clippers team. Now they have faced each other 2 times this season, the Clippers and the Lakers, and D'Angelo Russell hasn't got it done either. In their most recent matchup, he's had 0 rebounds, and then in the first matchup of the season, he only had 2. But where I really like this bet is there is no LeBron James today, as he's already been ruled out with his ankle injury. Now, if we look at games where Russell has played without LeBron James, and this over 2.5 rebounds, he's hit it in every single game this season, going 4 out of 4. Now, looking at the positive EV in terms of, or from Daily Grind Fantasy, they're giving this a 53.9% chance of hitting. So again, another really good play with an average juice of minus 137 from the major sports books. So recent performances, as I mentioned earlier, If you look at the last 5 and the last 10, he hasn't done too well. But again, I am looking at it in terms of how he's done without LeBron James in the lineup, and he's hit that line 100% of the time. And again, versus this Clippers team, looking at how they do against rebounds versus point guards, they allow the 8th most. So anyways, guys, these are my 5 picks for today. And always make sure you're checking the description because there's so much good information in there to make sure that you are a better sports bettor. But also, make sure you are subscribing to this channel. Drop a like, drop your comments below. Let me know some other picks. This isn't the only underdog bet that I'm making today or the only PrizePicks bet that I'm making today. Give me some advice in the comments. Let me know which ones you're taking and maybe I'll tell them too. Anyways, I will see y'all next time.